Hello everyone, it's the end of January here, and this is going to be another one of those time-lapse videos, and so if I've done this right, by the time you're hearing these words, it should be October or possibly November by the time I actually post this video. So I was just thought I ought to tidy this tree up a little bit, get rid of some of this moss I don't like growing up the trunk, and just give it a bit of a general tidy up and a trim back. I want to get rid of all of these weeds and get rid of the leaves that are just still clinging to the tree, as is the habit of this species once you have juvenile growth in the wild, as it were. Young trees, young hornbeams keep their leaves in the winter. Once they become mature full-size trees, then they tend to lose their leaves, so to enhance the illusion that this is an old mature tree, I want to get rid of these leaves. Also, in the last video I made on this, I asked for people to tell me which whether they liked side B or side A better, and I got about a 50-50 answer, which is the way I feel about it. And so in the end I've decided to place it on a bench where I will see this side as I walk down the garden, and returning back up the garden to the house I will see this side, and basically have two fronts. So I'm going to get rid of all the leaves. I'll quickly turn the camera off whilst I do that. Okay, I think you can see the difference there. It does give it a much starker, more wintry image, but you know, it does make the tree look that bit older, less immature. So what am I going to do now? I've got a few long whippy shoots that escaped attention at the end of last year, so I'm going to reduce that one all the way back, and I've got some odd strange looking crossing bits which I want to reduce. This branch, you have to see what you can see. I've got a branch here with a piece going across that way and across this way. Can remove that and shorten that. And what I'm just trying to promote is more of this angular movement and less straight lines, really. So it really is just a question of, I'm just going to shorten back a lot of these growths, especially ones that are sticking upwards or crossing from one tree into another. Okay, well, back in a couple of minutes or seconds for you. Okay, so it's the 20th of April and my little raft here is growing really well. All the new buds shot out, 4 or 5 leaves, and it's looking rather nice, fresh green growth. So what am I going to do with it today? Today it's going to get a trim, and basically I'm just going to go around and just cut it back into shape, and wherever I've got this extension of 4 or 5 leaves, I'm going to cut it back to a leaf pointing in the direction I want it to grow in, and just trying to keep it into shape develop ramification, and so on. You can see why sometimes it's useful, or most times it's useful, to give a tree like this an extra trim during the winter time, or in early spring before the buds pop, because it's so much easier to see the structure of the tree there. But now is a really crucial time to cut back some of this new growth, otherwise it's just going to get longer and leggier and leggier and longer, and your tree will soon grow out of shape. Sometimes if you've got a weak tree, it's useful, it's a useful technique to allow it to grow shaggy and cut it back in. That helps it to build up a bit more strength, but this tree is in good health and a good shape, so I want it to stay that way. Okay, I can feel this is going to be quite a long video, even if I fast forward through these bits. So basically what I'm doing here is I have a branch from this trunk interfering with the apex of this one, so I'm going to cut this one back to this leaf here and redirect that growth away. At the same time I'm going to be trimming this one down slightly, and so on. So that's pretty much it. All the work I'm going to do with this tree at the moment. I have a growth. Let me see if I can get into that. There's a weed there. I have had a couple of buds pop inside the tree, which I don't want, so I'll just cut those away. I like to keep that area of the trunks bare so that they can be seen in their twisted, contorted glory. There's another one just there, another weed. There's a little branch I missed. Another growth just there. Zoom you back out and give you another 360 now that it's been trimmed. It's the 3rd of June today, and time to do a little bit of work on my Raft Hornbeam. As you can see, it's getting quite shaggy. It's responded well to initial trimmings, and is now ready for another one. So basically these growths are starting to push out now, so I'm just literally going to go around the whole tree, just trimming off all the emerging new shoots before they get too much bigger, keeping that overall kind of shape in that I have been developing for this tree. Trying to be conscious of where a leaf node is, so that I will get some resulting shoots coming out in the direction I want rather than back into the tree. But other than that, it's just a question of, well, kind of stopping it in its tracks is one way of looking at it, and then getting it to sort of gather itself and push out some more. You can't do this all the time. You do need to give the tree a chance to push out some growth occasionally. It's good to let it get a little bit shaggy like this has been. I've got a long piece coming from the interior of the tree there to get rid of, but some pieces like this aren't ready to be trimmed yet. Obviously others are getting quite long, so it's a balancing act. So I'm going to trim off this long one here, and leave this until it gets more at that sort of stage. Drop that, that didn't help you. More of that sort of stage. Okay, so the tree has two fronts realistically. There is this one, and then there is this one. So over the next few months we'll come back to this tree occasionally, but I will keep pinching out these shoots as they begin to grow out, and keeping it to this just overall shape, which reminds me of a copse of trees on top of a hill. Actually there's one just down the road from here which looks very similar as I go past it. So yeah, that's all for today. Like I say, it's the 3rd of June. This tree's got some more growing to do this year, so it will be at least the autumn before you see this. It's the 6th of July and both fronts on this raft are starting to look a bit shaggy and overgrown, so I have been constantly pinching out, but it still needs a little more. So I'm just trimming out new shoots as they come. I have left this for a little while. One of the beauties of having a lot of trees is, I find there's always some work to do with a tree somewhere, even if it sometimes means that you get a bit behind. You can still play catch up. I know one of the things in the early days I found hard with trees is I like being hands-on, and I learnt the hard way in my early days of bonsai that you can overwork a tree, that they need time sometimes to rest in between procedures, as it were. Having a lot of trees means you can do that and still be hands-on, because there's always a tree that needs a snip here or a snip there. So yeah, that was a lesson I did learn in the early days. If you keep working a tree, wait for the tractor. Apologies, we have tractors working in the field behind the house. Always sounds quite glamorous having a field behind the house, but it's not my field, unfortunately. But it is nice living in the country, I have to say. Yeah, so just a trim of some of these extra growths that are shooting out, and it's just a kind of profile pruning, as it were. All this trimming will promote bushiness. That's the idea. Anyway.